What if the oldest human community on Earth never disappeared? It just learned how to stay hidden. High in the Himalayas, above the safe line where people don't build or survive, explorers found a carved entrance facing the sunrise. Inside were symbols no language recognizes, fabrics preserved like time stopped, and signs the place wasn't abandoned. If this discovery is real, history didn't forget these people. They erased themselves. The trip doesn't begin with a heroic, let's find the ancient monks plan. It begins the way a lot of unsettling discoveries begin, by accident, mixed with stubbornness. A small team pushes off the familiar routes, chasing an odd detail in old notes and satellite scans. Nothing dramatic on paper, just a shadow that didn't behave like natural cracks. A dark line that stayed too straight, too consistent, and appeared at an altitude where people don't build anything, because people can barely breathe. They climb anyway. Up there, everything feels sharper. The wind doesn't just blow, it snaps at you. Snow doesn't fall, it cuts sideways, finding every gap in your clothing like it's looking for skin. And every few steps, the mountain reminds you who's in control. Loose rock, sudden ice, a gust strong enough to shift your balance when you're one wrong move away from a long drop. That's what makes the first sighting so weird. It's not a temple with flags and stairs. It's not some obvious carved doorway with a grand frame. It's subtle, almost insulting in how quiet it is. A depression in pale stone, a shadow that could be nothing, until they move closer. Because the edges aren't random. Weather doesn't make corners like that. Erosion doesn't leave symmetry behind. This wasn't made by accident. It was shaped, deliberately. And the entrance sits at an angle that feels intentional, like the cliff itself was turned into a marker. The team waits, watching the ridge line brighten. Then the sun breaks, and the first rays slide across the rock face. That's when the opening changes. The light hits it in a way that reveals the cut lines, cleaner than they should be. And for a moment, the whole entrance glows warm, amber, like a signal. Not a welcome sign. More like a reminder. Like the mountain is saying, you're here now. No turning back. And that's when they notice the carvings. Not big, dramatic pictures, small geometric patterns that stretch along the inner walls. Precise. Repeating, but not in a decorative way. In a coded way. Some shapes resemble star clusters. Others feel like cycles, like somebody tried to map seasons, or track something that moved. And the creepiest part? The style doesn't match what most people expect from Himalayan ruins. It doesn't look like the familiar patterns you see in known monasteries. It doesn't look like the art tourists take photos of. It looks like someone built this with a different purpose entirely. The temperature drops as they step inside, fast enough that they feel it through their gear. The air becomes still, like the cave is holding its breath. Their lamps throw light onto stone that doesn't glitter like normal rock. It shines with a thin frost glaze, almost like powdered glass. They should have felt excitement. Instead, the first emotion is hesitation. Because the deeper they look, the more it feels like this place wasn't lost. It was hidden, and hidden on purpose. But that wasn't the whole story. Because the moment they reached the first chamber, the cave stopped feeling ancient. It started feeling arranged. The first chamber is wrong in a way that's hard to explain until you see it. Natural caves look messy. Random. Rocks fall where they fall. Dust gathers where it wants. But this chamber has order. Not perfect, not polished, but intentional. Stones placed in positions that guide your attention. A pathway that almost suggests where feet once walked. Like a silent set of instructions. Then the team sees the objects. Not one or two scattered items, multiple pieces, grouped like they were left as offerings. Smooth stones engraved with symbols that don't match any script they recognize. Carved sticks made from wood that shouldn't be there at all, because the tree type doesn't grow anywhere near that altitude. Not even close. And then there's fabric. Fabric should not survive up there like that. In cold, yes, you can preserve things, but this isn't just preserved. It's intact in a way that suggests it was protected, sealed, kept safe. Tight weaving. Complex patterning. Threads that still hold faint hints of color, like the dye never fully surrendered to time. That makes no sense, because if this was some tiny, isolated group struggling to survive, why would they have textiles that look carefully designed? Why would they waste effort on beauty when survival is already a daily fight? Unless the survival part was already solved. In another corner, they find bowls, stone bowls, arranged in a semicircle so neat it makes the hair on your arms rise. Inside them, traces of a powdery residue. Not enough to identify on the spot, but enough to suggest ritual use. Preservation use. Something repeated again and again. And it keeps getting stranger. Because the ground near the threshold, the transition from entry chamber to deeper tunnel, has a strip of rock worn smooth. Not smoothed by water. Smoothed by footsteps. You can tell when stone is polished by flow. It's uneven, it follows gravity, it leaves patterns. This is different. This is flat in the way a path becomes flat after hundreds, thousands of passes. So the cave wasn't used once. It was used for a long time. And if the rumors around this story are even half true, that's where the team starts quietly realizing what they might be standing inside. Not a hideout. Not an abandoned shrine. A system. A place designed to outlast storms, outlast migrations, outlast entire eras of climate change. A place that could hold a community when the world outside became unlivable. And that's when one of them notices something small near the edge of the chamber. Something most people would miss. Faint pressure marks in the icy dust. Frost disturbed in a pattern that looks recent. Not a collapse. Not an animal. A track that doesn't fully read as footprint, but also doesn't read as random. And suddenly the chamber doesn't feel empty anymore. Because once you see evidence of movement, your brain does something cruel. It starts imagining the person who made it. How long ago? Hours? Days? Or just minutes? And what happened next would make the team question whether they were even supposed to be there in the first place. Because beyond the darker tunnel, a steady glimmer waited. Too consistent to be a trick of ice, too calm to be natural. And if that light was what they feared it was, they weren't exploring a cave. They were approaching someone's home. The tunnel narrows just enough to make everyone walk single file. And that's when the cave starts playing tricks on their senses. Sound disappears first. Boots scraping stone should echo, but the frozen walls swallow it. Even breath feels quieter. Like the mountain is patting everything down so nothing carries too far. Then the glimmer returns, steady, soft, almost patient. It isn't the flicker of a torch. It isn't the chaotic reflection of ice crystals. It's too consistent, like something meant to be seen. The team rounds the bend slowly, lights raised, palms tightening around straps and tools that suddenly feel useless. And the space opens. A cavern expands upward into darkness, so deep their lamps can't find the ceiling. The floor is smoother here, like the chamber has been maintained, not simply left alone. At the center sits a circle of stones, laid with ceremonial precision, each one placed as if its exact distance matters. And inside that circle, someone is sitting. Still, upright, calm. At first their brains refuse it. A statue maybe. A figure made from piled cloth. A trick of shadow. Anything except the obvious. Then the figure inhales. Not a gasp. Not a startled breath. A controlled inhale. Slow and clean, like he's been listening to them approach and decided the moment had arrived. One of the climbers instinctively shifts backward, boots sliding slightly on frost, and the sound, tiny as it is, seems to carry like a shout. The figure opens his eyes. And that's when the entire room changes. Because the eyes don't look foggy. They don't look tired. They don't look old in the way people expect old to look. They're bright, sharp, almost amused. Like he's watched 100 groups come and go. A thin layer of frost clings to his shoulders and sleeves, yet he doesn't shiver. He doesn't even blink fast. His posture says comfort, not endurance. Like the cold isn't attacking him, it's simply part of the room. The robe he wears isn't the heavy cloth you'd assume someone needs up there. It's layered, yes, but the fibers look strange under light. Too smooth. Too uniform. Like something woven with knowledge, not luck. And the most unsettling part? He doesn't look surprised. No panic. No alarm. No who are you? Energy. He rises with slow ease, joints moving fluidly, the way trained bodies move when they've repeated the same motions for decades. Only, this feels older than decades. He studies them for a few seconds, then speaks. The sound that comes out isn't any language they recognize. It isn't even close. The cadence is rich and structured, like it belongs to a full culture. Not a broken dialect that survived by accident. Some syllables roll like river stones, others hit sharp like chipped ice. The team does what people always do when they're scared and fascinated at the same time. They record everything. Whisper into microphones. Glance at each other like, "Are you hearing this?" But as he talks, they notice something else. He isn't breathing normally. He speaks while controlling his breath like it's an instrument. Inhale, hold, release, words, paused, inhale. His chest barely rises, but the rhythm is exact, like he's balancing the air inside him instead of using it. And in that rhythm, he doesn't just survive the cold. He seems to direct himself through it. He gestures, gentle, almost polite, inviting them deeper. And here's the moment that turns the story from mystery into something that feels dangerous. He walks barefoot across ice that should burn skin like fire. No flinch, no hesitation. His feet place softly, almost silently, like he's learned where the warmth lives inside the stone. The team follows because curiosity is louder than fear. And as they pass into a secondary chamber, the shelves carved into the walls reveal objects laid out like a museum. Except nobody built this for visitors. Minerals shaped into tools. Thin plates etched with lines that resemble measurement marks. Small stones carved with repeating patterns that feel like a system. The kind of system you'd expect from people who tracked stars and seasons because their lives depended on predicting them. Suddenly, it stops being a single old man in a cave. It becomes the possibility of a lineage. A line of people who didn't just survive glacial extremes, but mastered them. And just when the team thinks the shock has peaked, the elder does something small that ruins their understanding of what a human body should be able to do. He places his hand on the ice. The surface softens beneath his palm. Not from pressure, from heat. A shallow pool forms, trembles for a second, and then refreezes as he pulls away, like he can switch warmth on and off with intention. The team doesn't say it out loud, but everyone is thinking the same thing. If he can do that, what else can he do? Because his face holds a warning now. Not angry, not threatening, just a calm message that feels like it carries weight. You're seeing what you're allowed to see. And what happened next would make the air itself feel different, because the elder wasn't leading them to artifacts. He was leading them to a demonstration. The next corridor slopes downward, and the temperature shifts in a way that makes no sense. It's still cold, but not the same cold. This cold feels managed, like the mountain has rooms with different rules. The team's lamps catch veins of mineral shimmer running through the walls. The deeper they go, the more the cave looks engineered, shaped by hands that understood stone the way a builder understands wood. Then they enter a chamber lit by a faint blue glow. Not electric, not fire. The light comes from shallow pools tucked into the rock floor, water rich with minerals that seem to hold a soft luminescence. It's gentle but eerie, like the cave is breathing light. The elder kneels beside one pool and sits down, folding into stillness so smoothly it looks practiced beyond thought. His hands rest loosely, his back straight, his chin slightly lowered, and without any explanation, he begins. A slow inhale, a hold so long it makes one of the explorers unconsciously mirror it, then regret it. A controlled exhale, thin and steady. Again. The room doesn't move, but the air feels like it's listening. At first nothing happens. Just breath. Just silence. Just the faint drip of meltwater somewhere far away. Then the surface of the pool trembles slightly. Not from vibration. From warmth. The explorers glance down and see a change so subtle it's almost insulting. Steam barely visible, ghosting up from the water. The pool's temperature begins to rise, and it rises too smoothly to be random. No flame. No heater. No trick. Just breath. And that's when it clicks for them. This isn't meditation, as the outside world talks about it. This is a technique designed like a tool. A survival function. A controlled switch inside the body. The elder shifts into a second stage. His eyelids lower halfway. His breathing slows further, but the slow doesn't feel weak. It feels powerful, like he's reducing oxygen demand, lowering waste, stretching time inside his own chest. His pulse, if you're close enough to notice, stays calm. Not racing, not fighting the cold. Then the temperature in the room changes. Not by a little, by enough that the team feels it through their gear. A soft warmth spreads outward in an even wave, like somebody opened an invisible door. One explorer swallows and quietly checks a sensor. Another points a thermal tool at the elder's chest. The readings jump. But here's the problem. It isn't a full-body heat spike like a fever. It's targeted, controlled, like he's moving warmth around inside himself, sending it where he wants it. And then the chamber reveals it was never just him. Two younger monks appear. Silently, like they were always there, and the team simply wasn't permitted to notice them. Their robes match the elder's style, but their faces look younger, sharp, disciplined, unreadable. They place smooth stones in front of the elder in a straight line, each one spaced like part of a formula. Then they sit, not facing the team, facing him, and they begin breathing with him. 3 rhythms sinking into one. The air thickens with warmth so quickly it feels unreal. The explorers later describe it like standing near a fire that isn't visible, like stepping into a pocket where winter rules don't apply. Then comes the moment that makes people argue about this story even now. The youngest monk exhales, and a thin stream of steam escapes his mouth, not the usual cold breath fog, but a stronger, denser release, like his body is producing heat on command. His skin flushes slightly along the neck and hands, but he doesn't look distressed. He looks focused. The elder watches him like a teacher, not like a leader showing off. Like this is training. The next demonstration is quieter, but somehow worse. One monk places his palm over his abdomen, and the muscle beneath tightens in a controlled way that doesn't match normal movement. It's as if he can isolate parts of his body, lock them down, release them, regulate them. Hunger, fatigue, pain, all treated like knobs on a board. The team records everything, but the more they capture, the more helpless they feel. Because you can film it, you can measure it, you can try to name it, but you can't explain it without rewriting what you thought the human body was capable of. Finally, the elder opens his eyes and ends the ritual with one small gesture. The warmth fades slowly, like a tide pulling back. The blue glow remains. The chamber returns to silence. And in that silence, the team realizes they weren't shown a miracle. They were shown a method refined for so long it became tradition, and tradition refined until it looked like something supernatural. The elder rises again and turns toward a narrow passage lined with shimmering veins that catch the light like frozen lightning. He doesn't rush. He doesn't warn them. He simply walks, as if the next chamber is the real reason they came. And that's the terrifying part, because if the rituals were only preparation, then whatever waits ahead isn't meant to impress. It's meant to prove something. But the walls weren't finished speaking yet, because beyond that passage, the cave begins to show them pictures carved into ice and stone, mapping a timeline that shouldn't exist anywhere on Earth. The passage narrows again, forcing the team to slow their pace. The air grows sharper, cleaner, almost brittle, like every breath risks snapping something fragile. Their lamps skim across walls that glitter with mineral flecks, scattering light in fractured patterns that make depth hard to judge. Then the corridor opens, and everyone stops. The chamber ahead doesn't feel like a cave. It feels like a vault. Sheets of ice stretch across the ceiling like frozen glass, thin enough to catch light, but thick enough to survive centuries. The reflections scatter across the stone floor, illuminating carvings so vast and deliberate that it takes several seconds to realize they aren't random markings. They're murals, not scratched, not symbolic, fully composed scenes carved with sweeping, confident strokes. Panel after panel wraps around the chamber, forming a continuous timeline that circles the room. The first images are unsettlingly unfamiliar. Figures move across wide plains of ice that don't resemble the Himalayas as they exist today. The land is flatter, colder, and crowded with massive animals, thick-bodied creatures with heavy horns and tusks adapted for brutal climates. The humans in these scenes wear layered garments and carry tools that look nothing like known Stone Age designs. Their posture is organized, purposeful, not wandering survivors, but travelers. As the team follows the carvings around the chamber, the scenes shift. The ice thickens. The sky darkens. Storms swirl overhead, carved with violent lines that suggest chaos rather than decoration. One panel shows people gathering around a central flame surrounded by falling snow, the fire drawn with unusual detail. Lines radiate outward from it, like instruction. This isn't just a campfire. It's a lesson. The explorers exchange looks as it sinks in. The murals appear to document early forms of the heat control techniques they just witnessed. Not as spiritual symbolism, but as survival manuals carved into stone. Warmth wasn't comfort. Warmth was life. Deeper into the chamber, the tone changes again. Massive cliffs collapse. Ice walls crack. Entire groups are shown retreating toward narrow mountain passages that look disturbingly similar to the one the team just walked through. The message is clear even without translation. Something catastrophic happened. The climate turned hostile enough to erase entire populations. And while others vanished, this group retreated into the mountain itself. One carving, partially hidden behind a natural rock curve, pulls everyone's attention. Symbols line up in repeating patterns, too precise to be art. They resemble a record system, seasons, star movements, long cycles that repeat again and again. It feels like data. The team realizes they may be standing inside one of the oldest environmental archives on Earth. A record not written on paper, but carved into stone where ice would protect it from decay. Then they notice the floor. Shallow depressions hold clusters of smooth stones, arranged carefully beneath specific murals. Each cluster uses stones with different colors and textures. Some contain minerals not found anywhere in the Himalayas, which means these stones traveled, carried, preserved. Memory markers. Suddenly the story stretches far beyond a single region. These people didn't just survive here. They came from somewhere else, crossing landscapes that no longer exist. A narrow side tunnel draws the elder forward, and the team follows into a smaller gallery. Here, the murals become more intimate. Early figures are shown practicing simple postures, breathing sequences that appear crude compared to what they've already witnessed. But as the panels progress, the techniques evolve. Breathing becomes more refined, postures more controlled, energy depicted as flowing lines rather than scattered sparks. It's evolution in stone. A final mural dominates the far wall, a massive door carved into a cliff face. Above it, a symbol resembling an eye gazing upward into a swirling sky. The implication is immediate and heavy. There is another place, a deeper sanctuary, and whatever lies beyond that door is not meant for everyone. The elder pauses at the edge of the chamber, letting the team absorb what they've seen. His silence feels deliberate, like a test. Because if the murals are telling the truth, then this order didn't just survive the Ice Age. They learned from it. And that's when he leads them towards something even more fragile than stone. Something that was never meant to be seen by chance. The next space is smaller, tucked behind the final mural like a secret folded inside another secret. The air changes instantly. Less icy, faintly dry. The kind of controlled environment you'd expect from deliberate sealing, not luck. At the center rests a low stone platform. On it lies a bundle wrapped in layers of aged fiber, tied with a care that suggests reverence rather than storage. The elder steps aside, allowing the team to approach. No one speaks. When the outer layers are gently unfolded, something astonishing appears. A manuscript. Not paper. Not parchment. A thin, bark-like material preserved so perfectly it almost feels wrong to touch. The surface carries mineral-based ink that hasn't faded into dust. The script curves and sharpens in rhythmic patterns that look designed to guide the reader's breath. This isn't just writing. It's performance. As the team begins analyzing the markings, patterns emerge. Repeated symbols that align with cycles already seen in the murals. Seasonal shifts. Astronomical movements. Long winters followed by brief returns of warmth. One translated segment describes a time when storms grew violent without warning. Temperatures plunged. Entire groups vanished between one breath and the next. The text speaks of retreat, of choosing stone over sky, mountain over open land. Then the tone darkens. Fragments describe watching other tribes disappear during the coldest years. The writing avoids emotional language, but the meaning is clear. Survival required change. Radical change. Techniques are listed, not as prayers, but as methods. Slowing breath. Conserving heat. Entering a state between sleep and wakefulness where the body consumes almost nothing. A line repeats across several sections in varying forms, roughly translating to the same idea. Those who mastered themselves remained. Near the end of the manuscript, a damaged section hints at something deeper. A sanctuary sealed not to protect outsiders from danger, but to protect the knowledge itself. Only those who complete the discipline can enter without harm. The elder watches as the realization spreads across the team. The murals, the rituals, the manuscript, they're all pointing toward the same conclusion. This place isn't a monastery. It's a filter, a system designed to preserve a type of human capability that the outside world forgot or abandoned. And just when the team begins to wonder if they'll be shown that sealed sanctuary, the elder turns away, and something changes. Not dramatically, quietly, like a decision being made. Because what happens next doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a withdrawal. The elder doesn't explain. He doesn't gesture dramatically or offer a final lesson. He simply turns and walks toward a narrow alcove hidden behind the manuscript chamber, his pace steady, unhurried. The air feels different here. Not colder, not warmer, heavier, like the mountain itself is paying attention. The explorers follow, instincts screaming that something is about to happen, though nothing looks out of place. Frost still coats the stone. The blue mineral glow hums faintly in the distance. Every step sounds too loud in the silence. Then it happens. In the time it takes to blink, the elder is gone. Not walking away. Not fading into shadow. Gone. The younger monks vanish with him, just as cleanly. No sound. No movement. No shift in air. No warmth lingering where their bodies stood. The team freezes. They rush forward, scanning the chamber, lights darting across walls and floor. No footprints disturb the frost. No hidden door swings open. No crack in the stone reveals a passage. It's as if the mountain inhaled and kept them. What remains feels intentional. Objects rest where the monks had been sitting. Smooth stones arranged in precise geometric patterns. Wooden carvings. Mineral fragments placed at exact angles. This isn't abandonment. It's a message. As the explorers document the arrangement, patterns emerge. Alignments match symbols seen in the murals. Distances echo the spacing used during the ritual. The configuration feels like a code, one that requires understanding, not force. A faint breeze moves through the chamber, carrying a scent that doesn't belong to ice or stone. Herbal. Dry. Almost ancient. It's subtle, but enough to suggest these rituals didn't just shape bodies. They shaped the space itself. Then one of the explorers notices something embedded in the wall. A smooth, dark stone, almost obsidian, polished to a mirror finish. When light hits it, the reflection bends, shifting in ways that don't fully make sense. It doesn't reflect the chamber accurately. Instead, it seems to favor certain directions, subtly drawing attention toward unexplored corridors. A compass. Not for direction. For permission. As they continue surveying the chamber, someone points upward. Near the ceiling, far above where casual light reaches, are carvings almost invisible at first glance. Abstract cycles of stars, glaciers, and seasons layered over one another. A timeline that stretches far beyond recorded history. The realization settles slowly, and when it does, it's unsettling. The monks didn't vanish because they were afraid. They vanished because they'd already given what they intended to give. Proof. Evidence. A challenge. The explorers leave the mountain days later carrying recordings, images, samples, and more questions than answers. The artifacts suggest a civilization that endured isolation through mastery, not of tools or weapons, but of the human body itself. A group that didn't wait for the Ice Age to end. They adapted until it no longer mattered. And somewhere beneath the frozen rock, sealed passages may still exist, guarding knowledge meant only for those willing to change themselves to reach it. Because maybe the most shocking part of this story isn't that these monks survived since the last Ice Age. It's that they might still be there, watching, waiting, deciding who's ready to understand what they preserved. If this discovery twisted the way you think about human limits, survival, and forgotten history, make sure you're subscribed, because the next story dives even deeper into mysteries the world was never meant to forget.